Yo, 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 welcome to the channel. So today we're going to talk about one of Neville Goddard's techniques, and I think this is a very important one, and I think it's only understood at the surface level of what he's really meaning. And so I really want to give this to you as a next level up so that you can actually gamify your own manifesting game, so to speak, right? As you could level it up. Okay, so this is his technique called selective hearing. Okay, so this is the person who is able to get to the point where they can pretty much shut off anything in their world that doesn't mirror what they want to do or who they want to become. And remember, this is all about becoming. Everything about manifestation, I don't care who you listen to, follow everything from Esther Hicks to your left finger. Whatever you use to manifest your rabbit's foot, it doesn't matter, okay? But really what it is, it's about embodiment, okay? How are you being that inside, in visualization, in manifestation, in your imaginary scenes? How are you being? And that means you're becoming it, okay? And so this is very, very key to understand. That is tip one, okay? This is not about going into the imagination and getting anything. You never go in and get anything, ever. From birth to death, manifestation is not about getting. It's about becoming, okay? So again, let me explain that, and then we're going to go into his technique of selective hearing, because people really get confused by this. So if you are, for example, wanting to manifest a car, okay? So there's a difference between getting a car and being a car owner. All right, so take that in for a second. Okay, there's a difference between having an object and being the person who has the object. Okay. And so, basic manifestation is just getting stuff, all right? But then really next level manifestation is being the person who has the stuff, okay? And so again, the difference is car, right? I have a car, and then I'm now a car owner. And here's the major difference between the two, because I can go in and get stuff easily, no worries. Anybody can do that, right? I can go in and get a new car. But who's to say that I'm going to keep that car? Who's to say that something might happen and then I end up having to sell the car back to the dealer because I might ruin my credit? Whatever it is, right? But being a car owner is very different, because then I'm actually owning it. That means it's mine, and that no matter what happens, I'm still the car owner, right? And so there's a major, major difference and again, same with house, right? So somebody who has a house still might lose a house. But if you're a house owner, you own the house, right? And so this is the major difference. Manifestation is about becoming, okay? And you never, ever go into these imaginary scenes as somebody who lacks it. You always go into the scene as you already have it. This is why it's always encouraged that when you enter a scene, you enter the scene with the with the feelings of the wish fulfilled. Okay, are you with me so far? So that means really part of your meditation practice as you begin building your inner world is that you should actually get to the point where you are already in the state of the wish fulfilled before you enter the scene. Okay, that's just, again, a level 2.0 that some people know about, but some people don't know about. All right, so let's now deep dive into Neville's concept of selective hearing. Now, what I want to say, I don't think anybody's ever talked about this technique in the way that I'm going to talk about it. Okay, and I think it's important, okay, that we realize that sometimes Neville is writing, but he's writing from his own mind, meaning he's not always thinking about the audience. And by the way, as an author, as somebody who has published books, I realize that, I recognize that. Right? And so sometimes we write as if we are assuming the reader knows exactly what we're thinking. Okay? Now, I also think Neville was extremely smart and he was very articulate. And that's why I always look at his work very differently than most people in this space, because I see him writing in the way of technique, right? Meaning I see his books and his works not just as him trying to be esoteric and mystical and like, oh, I'm hiding like Easter eggs here and all this kind of stuff. No, I think he's actually writing in the name of technique. So almost every sentence I read is a technique that you can pull out. And the same with scripture. And by the way, if you're really, really ever wondering or want to join, I'm going to be starting a Bible study group. No, not for Christians, right? No, not for Muslims. No, not for, anybody in Judaism, whatever it is, I'm going to be starting it, only reading it from the technique of mysticism and Neville's work, inspiring it, the foundation of interpretation. So get in touch if you're interested in that. But also, let's get back in here. So what I want to do is, when he says selective hearing, okay, I'm going to define that, but also when you hear selective hearing, hear selective touching, hear selective eating, hear selective tasting, hear selective perceiving, right? Take all the 5 senses and then put selective in front of it, because that's really what he's saying, right? You want to make this an art where you actually train your outward senses and inward senses as well, right? Because again, what he says is, listen, you want to not disavow, right? I don't think he's saying don't be human. In fact, he says this is the law of liberty, and he wants us to live the law of liberty as what? As gods in these flesh suits, as these kind of avatars experiencing what awareness is aware of, okay? And so what you have to realize is that we have to train these senses, okay? And so what we do is we train ourselves not to trust the outward senses, but then we go in and we amplify the inner senses, okay? So we are taking the taste, touch, hear, feel, all of that, but we're doing it inside, and we're amplifying, okay? So the Bible calls that the flesh, right? And you must deny the flesh, which means deny these senses, deny reason, deny the ego, because they're all playing together, not against you. They're just doing what they're doing. Okay, but they're giving you a limited story, whereas the unlimited story exists in here, okay? And your unlimited potential exists in here. So you're training your senses, and again, keep in mind, that word means training, okay? That means it might take some time, and I keep focusing on this because I think in our culture of expediency, our culture of like drive-through spirituality and drive-through desires, we want to be like, I want to manifest this tomorrow. Yeah, but if you have any limiting beliefs, you're not. I know it doesn't sound supportive, but I'd rather you be like, okay, I have like 7 limiting beliefs. Probably not going to get rid of those tomorrow. Now, can you? Of course. But we have to also realize that some of this does take time, and it's okay. Like, because the more that we get okay with it taking time, the irony is that it will take less time, right? So do you hear that? You can't give time meaning. Because the more that you give time meaning, even when I'm saying this to you, you're going to have to, again, selectively hear, right? What I'm saying is like, actually what he is saying is, I can do this anytime I want. So that's selective hearing, okay? So selective hearing, again, to use a much more concrete example that might make more sense to you, is that if you are, let's say, wanting, again, a boring example, a house, okay? And I've used this example many times before, but it's a really easy go-to one, is that if you want a house, selective hearing would be like, oh, so I just heard the news, and the news was like, housing prices are going up. Okay, so selective hearing would say, I didn't hear any of that, right? Or selective hearing would be like, oh, that news clip, that's from last year, right? So do you hear how this can actually turn into a tip and a tool and a strategy? And again, let's say if you want to manifest an SP, but everybody else around you, your friends, your family, everybody's like, oh my gosh, you should get married, and why aren't you married yet? And blah, 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 right? So few ways that you can go about this. Selective hearing is also the ability to interpret things only in the way in which it supports your desired end, okay? So again, you could say selective hearing is, oh, they're really supportive. They actually care for me. That's awesome. I'm so glad I have supportive friends, right? Or you could be like, I ignore them and that doesn't matter. Or you could be like, oh, you know what? They're talking about somebody else, right? So again, selective hearing is actually turning hearing what you're hearing into an art. You're painting, but you're painting with words. And what's the actual canvas is your mind, right? And so you want to paint pictures that only serve your end, right? And again, it's training. What does that mean? You're not going to get this right the first time around, okay? Even Neville does say this in several books. And I love that he does this because people don't focus on this enough even in his work, is that, listen, sometimes this is hard. Even in his meditation lectures, his radio lectures on meditation, he talks about, his own technique of meditation, which he says, I would sit there and control every thought. Right? Yes, right? And so he even said, he goes like, this is way harder than the plowman shares, which is referring to a Bible verse, right? About how the plowman, works day and night and so on and so forth, right? And that's, again, the challenge here is I think people come to Neville and they're like, oh, it's really easy. But really what he's calling for is next level, right? So you might have gotten here from Esther Hicks or, Joe Dispenza or anything like that. And by the way, no knocking them. I'm total supporters of those who want to use their work. But you have to realize that this is next level. This is like advanced 2.0, right? And so I want to encourage you to recognize that and realize that. But again, back to selective hearing. You are choosing to hear what you want to hear. So again, you go in and you either hear their silence, meaning the family and the friends who are like, oh my gosh, you're not married and what's going on, right? So you actually hear them saying, wow, I'm so stoked that you're married. That's selective hearing. You reverse what they're saying and hear, okay? And can you do it out here and it still be effective? Of course, but your main state is going to impact that. Okay, so if your main state is I'm lonely, then that's going to impact you, okay? No matter what you're hearing out here. So, and that's where we manifest from, by the way. We manifest from our main states, okay? So if we're fearing the world, right, and then we hear the news about some criminal that's on the loose, we're going to be impacted by that because our main state is fear. But if our main state is I feel safe in the world, right, then that's not going to impact us. Now, we still want to manifest, by the way, safety for other people, right? So even if we hear that, we're not manifesting from that's going to influence me. So then what I want to do is I want to use love and I want to actually be able to impact others in a positive way. So I'm going to actually imagine and revise that the news person said, wow, there's a beautiful thing that's going on in this town and so on and so forth. But you can do this for yourself. And that's what selective hearing is. You're gifting yourself what you actually want in here. Okay. And so try this not just with hearing, but with every other sense as well. Okay. And what you'll do is that the more that you train yourself, you'll get really good at this in here and out here. Right. And so this is training ground. And so we get to get better at this. And that's how you can get better. So I encourage you to try this tip, try this technique. Let me know how it works for you. If you have tried it, let others know how it's worked for you. Because again, I want this YouTube to be a supportive community. Also check out the Discord link I shared in one of my comments below. Go check them out. It's a free supportive group that I'd love for you to join. And much love to you guys all and be safe in the world. Talk to you soon. Bye.